What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another 10th edition breakdown. This time, it's the Tau Empire, a faction near and dear to my heart, and Quentin over here.
I know.
We've both been playing Tau for a long time.
Forever. I've been playing this faction since I was in middle school.
We have so many Tau models in the house now, and I'm glad to be talking about the faction. So, first off, if you like this type of content, if you like the 10th edition previews we've been doing, please give us a like, subscribe to the channel, tell your friends about us, and leave a comment letting us know what you're most excited about in regards to Tau. And then in addition, if you want extra content, in particular, I just released a top 3 combos from the Tau Index in the War Room. Check out the description below, thewarroom.vhx.tv, and you're going to find in there all sorts of more advanced level content that we show off there, as well as access to our awesome community. There's a 3-day free trial, so it doesn't hurt to check it out, and I'm going to be doing the State of the Faction for Tau, showing you all the lists I've been working with, and then on top of that, we're going to have tons of games as well.
I'm super excited about it.
All right, let's go ahead and dive right in here to Tau. Obviously, their army rule and detachment rule have been previewed, so let's skip on up here. First of all, marker lights for the greater good. Basically how it works is you've got your observer unit that's going to help buff your guided unit, and so when you activate a unit, you're going to pick one unit to be the observer, one to be the guided unit, and then you also pick a spotted unit. So when you target the spotted unit, you're going to get +1 ballistic skill, and if they have the observer has the marker light keyword, then you ignore cover. And guess what? Ignore cover is not that common in the game. There's
really not.
There's a decent amount of flamers that have it, but not many armies can just say, I'm going to ignore cover on the key unit that I need to.
And one thing that's really important to note is that since basically everything is going to be in cover all the times, this is a lot more powerful than it was in 9th edition. Basically, this you can scratch out ignores cover and replace it with +1 AP.
Yep,
like
effectively.
You really can.
And so ignores cover is a rare ability. It is actually very strong that Tau has.
It's incredibly strong.
On top of that, +1 ballistic skill is nice because there are some ways to get +1 to hit, and that means you get +1 ballistic skill, and then you add a +1
so
to
we
hit.
on 3s, unlike those trash factions, Admech and Votan.
There are ways to actually get to hit on 2s in this army, which has typically been rare for Tau. Now, if you do split fire, you're going to get this benefit against the spotted unit, but then -1 ballistic skill. So it really incentivizes you to focus down units instead of trying to just split fire and kill 4 things with 1 unit.
And before we go on, we have a $2 super chat from Derek Butts. Someone at GW lost to Tau one time and said never again. I really don't think that's the case.
No, instead they have been watching my stream games for the last 2 editions, and they've been getting upsetty spaghetti about all the drones stringing out, shield drones everywhere. I love shield drones. I'm never giving them up. Games Workshop doesn't matter. They're tokens now. I'm still taking them. I don't care.
Yeah, put them all on the table just to make them mad. I think Tau, they're certainly not Eldar, but I really don't think that they're the worst faction ever. I think they've got some real strong play.
Yeah, the Doom and Gloom guys, be thankful that you're nowhere near Death Guard or Admech.
Yeah, you're not there.
Way in the doldrums. Yes. This army actually has play. I'm going to go through it. It's actually a lot stronger than you think.
There's a ton of stuff in here.
All right, Detachment Rule. So this is the one that I'm not quite as convinced. It's a strong rule, but it only kicks in turn 3 onward.
Yep.
The game is designed, so it's a 5-turn game now. It's not 6 turns. So you really need to be in a position to be winning by turn 3 instead of, I'm going to just dominate the late game. It's not that easy, especially if you're trying to take tactical objectives. You need to be out there scoring points, engaging.
Yeah, you really have to do stuff the first 2 turns.
However, this rule itself is hilariously powerful on the volume of fire that a lot of Tau units can put out when you're giving them the guided ability. Sustained hits 2 is insanity on some of the volume of fire you'll see. And there is an upgrade, spoiler, example of the Kalyan, that you can proc this turns 2 onward.
Which is really strong on a big unit of Crisis.
It is very strong.
$5 super chat from Sean Kruger. I like Synergy Tau. Reminds me of 5th edition Tau, Fishy Fury 2.0. Yeah, one thing I think we're both going to talk a lot about is the strength of Breachers and Devilfish. Really strong.
Definitely. Yeah. The sum is definitely greater than the parts here in this Tau book.
Completely.
There's no more, I have 3 Crisis units, they're going to kill your entire army. Doesn't matter what you do, I win. Easy.
Yeah.
That doesn't exist anymore, so if that was what you were hoping for, definitely not going to find it in this book.
The max damage faction is not this.
Nope, but the Jank Tank of Tau is back. And
I
love Janky Tau.
Yes.
This is how I went to ACO with 8th edition Tau in 9th and was just like, why didn't I just win? Yeah. Almost win. I almost won. Only losing in the semifinals. But anyway, Here we go, stratagems. So I think the stratagems overall are pretty mediocre. This is not one of the strengths of this book. There is one that is clearly better than all the other ones, and it's the one you're going to use very often. And then there's a second one that's pretty darn good. Mm-hmm. The rest of them, meh. So, stim injectors, 1 CP. It is used in the fight phase or your opponent's shooting phase. You pick a Tau Battlesuit unit, which is a lot of the key units. 6-up Feel No Pain. Really wish this was 5-up Feel No Pain.
Agreed. 6-up is nice if you have, say, 4 damage going into a unit that has 4 wounds, or there's really awkward breakpoints. It's fine. You might use it in a pinch if you absolutely have to have something survive, or something's targeting a really important unit and you have some CP to spare, but don't expect to be using this every turn since CP are so valuable.
Yep, especially, so like, my Crisis unit, I'm going to put 2 shield drones in there, and they're going to be 6 wounds.
Yes.
In that case, 6-up Feel No Pain, you're on average going to make 1, so against like 2 damage weapons, that could swing the math where you take a whole extra wound roll on allocated to that Crisis unit. So it can matter in certain instances where they try and put everything in there, but honestly, probably not going to come up too often. 1 CP for 6-up Feel No Pain, a little iffy. And on other units, forget about it. Yeah. Not using that.
£5 super chat from Will I Really Am. Thank you very much. Some say Tau can't kill tanks and are terrible. Some say they will die too easy and shoot mediocre. Please, Mr. Tau Siegler, say they're wrong.
They don't worry. This is going to be fine. Yeah. It's going to be fine, Tau people. Don't worry. Okay? Coordinate to engage 1 CP. Your shooting phase, 1 Tau unit from your army that has been selected as the observer. Mm-hmm. So until the end of the phase, each time a model in that unit makes an attack that targets the spotted unit. So you've got your guided unit, your observer, and they all target the spotted unit. Both units are going to get your +1 ballistic skill, and if they have the marker-like keyword, ignores cover.
I think this is a strat you're going to be using quite often.
Yep, this is the second best strat, in my opinion. It's the one where you're going to really, okay, I need both units to be buffed up at this point. Let's just do it. Both going to ignore cover. They're both going to get that guided benefit, so it really kicks in when Cao Yun is active as well. All right, then we got Strike and Fade. This is number 1. It is by far the best strat here. It's 2 CP. Understandable, it's not as easy to spam, but guess what? Tau have some ways to CP regen here. You just save your CP and use this.
Yep, this is it.
Just save your CP, use this.
Every turn.
Honestly, one of the benefits of tactical missions for Tau is the fact that you can just discard one of them and be like, CP.
Yep.
Guaranteed, I'm just going to sit on my CP and Strike and Fade every single time that I want to.
Crisis suits, they can't go through walls anymore, but they move pretty far, and this is a normal move, which means you can just go around the walls.
Yep, and you're gonna see the combo Coldstar Crisis unit. You're gonna have room.
Yep.
You're gonna have room to get back there. So not the end of the world there, but 2 CP, it means you actually have to budget for it. It's not just my 1 CP per turn is used every single time.
I think I did it 5 turns of every single game I played this Tau. Yeah.
Yep. Point blank ambush. So if this stratagem, if you see this restrictions thing down here, if that didn't exist, this would be a great strat. You use it all the time, 1 CP. But because you can't use it in the first and second battle rounds, it's just like, come on now. That's just ridiculous. With the army-wide rule not letting you do things or not really coming into effect for your army until turn 3, why are we putting this on a strat as well? Yes, it is powerful, but it also has the qualifier of you can only when you're targeting an enemy unit within 9 inches anyway. So you're already getting close. You're already getting in their face. This should just be +1 AP. If without any range, if it's restricted in the first and second battle rounds, but because it's 9 inches, it really shouldn't have this restriction.
I agree.
Personally. So
it's a cool strat. I think you'll use it situationally, but not when you're going to be relying to build a game plan around.
And because Tau have easy ways to ignore cover, they don't actually need as much AP. Depends on the target. There are some things that are 2-up save that are going to be annoying to deal with. In that case, this strat is great against them, but for the most part, you're probably not going to need it all the time, like Strike and Fade.
We got a couple of super chats. $10 super chat from Preston Johnson. Good to see almost everything getting cool and impactful rules. Shame that Grey Knights look pretty weak by comparison. Just kind of have to rely on teleports to score and play keep away from heavy hitters.
Yeah, it definitely seems like Grey Knights are leaning more towards the I am a mission army, and I'm going to try and outmission you the whole game. So we'll see how that works. I'm definitely excited to play them because the rules are awesome, but we'll see. Thanks so much for the super chat. And then next one.
We got a $5.50 Canadian from Masilla Delt. How do you feel about the effectiveness of loss of 10 inches of range on most weapons if you play Borkan? Also, are Lord of Wars less tough than a Land Raider? Storm Surge is 4-pin Land Raider doesn't. Also, you'll notice that almost every gun lost range, so it's not as though everyone else can still outrange us. With the distances might still be equivalent. I think it's fine. The boards are smaller. It's not like I ever really had a huge problem getting range anyways.
Yeah, it's not the end of the world. A lot of the kind of volume of fire units that Tau have, they are medium-ish range, so you're going to have to be careful. But that's the thing. I think Tau is all about, I am going to try and delay my opponent in those first 2 turns, and then I'm going to hit them like a ton of bricks when Kalyan is active. This is pretty much how Tau has to play, but they have the tools to do it effectively, and we'll get to those. Who did I anger? Definitely somebody. Definitely somebody.
It's when you win back-to-back LVOs is what you get.
Yeah, well, it was different armies. 1 CP photon grenades. So it does exist again. It's your opponent's charge phase, obviously, when they declare one of your grenade units. So things like your Fire Warriors are going to have grenades, Pathfinders. That enemy unit immediately takes a Battle Shock test, and they're -2 to charge. So it is one way if your opponent's trying to charge onto an objective to contest it away, you're like, all right, take your Battle Shock. If they fail it, boom, now it has 0s.
Yep. Again, another one of those strats is kind of situational, but it's pretty good.
It's solid. Not as consistently I'm going to use this as
Strike and Fade. Yeah.
Combat Embarkation is another one that is, this one's brand new. Your opponent's charge phase as well. You're going to pick a Tau Empire infantry unit. So Crisis Suit's no longer infantry, so you can't use it on them. But it's basically your Breachers, your Fire Warriors. They're on an objective. The Devilfish is hiding behind terrain right behind them. Your opponent has to charge onto the objective, and you're like, all right, I'm going to get back in the transport.
Yeah. I think if you're playing like World Eaters, it's kind of strong, but I think most people can just shoot.
They're going to...
Just shoot the
Breachers don't really have much defense. They
No.
-1 to wound from the Guardian Drone,
Sure.
maybe cover, but they're going to get obliterated.
Yeah, they just die.
So this...
Yeah.
I don't think this is really going to come up too often,
No.
frankly.
I'd rather just use the grenade stratagem and just do some mortal wounds.
Yep. Against pure melee armies, if those exist, then you're going to use it all the time, and it's going to be hilarious as they don't kill your troops and they keep popping out to contest objectives. But outside of that, you're probably not going to come up. All right, enhancements. So Exemplar of the Kalyans, the one I mentioned, it is the one that I love.
Yep, it's the one you take.
While the bear is leading a unit, the unit's Kalyan Detachment Rule takes effect from the 2nd battle round instead of the 3rd. 6-man crisis unit, commander inside, he's got the upgrade.
Done.
Turn 2 onward, I'm exploding. It's sustained hits everywhere. It's just, it's crazy volume of fire. So this is the upgrade I love. Precision of the Patient Hunter. So this one gives the bear, it's not quite as good as its old version in 9th edition, which was
quite good.
The amazing Warlord trait. Each time the bear makes a ranged attack, you're +1 to hit, and from the 3rd battle round onwards, once again, why? You're +1 to wound. +1 to wound is great, but from the 3rd battle round onward, come on now, get out of here. So
if it was all the time, I might like it. 3rd battle round onwards, nah.
Commander is Ballistic Skill 3. If you get a marker, if you use for the greater good, you can get to Ballistic Skill 2+, and then have a +1 to hit on top of that, so you can effectively ignore stealth or something like that. What I like this for is maybe you just take one commander and you just come down in somebody's backfield. You're just going to hit on 2s. You give him 1 marker drone so he has the marker-like keyword, and you could potentially act as an observer for like a crisis unit that has 1 airburst on each model. Something like that. Although I think airburst is pretty darn mediocre.
Yeah, it's real bad.
But there might be some armies like Eldar where you could actually kill some
or SMS models. Or something like that.
Yeah, well, SMS is terrible too.
Yeah.
They don't want Tau doing indirect fire. No. All right, but it's a decent upgrade on a commander, in my opinion. Pure Tide Engram Neurochip, this one's a big miss for me.
Yes.
So there are a lot of rules like this. Once per turn, you can use a strat on the bear's unit, even if you've already used that strat on a different unit.
If this made it free.
Almost every other ability like this made it 0 CP.
If it made it 0 CP, you take this, you put it on a 2nd command, and you'd have 2 Fire and Fading Crisis units.
Then we would be talking, but I don't think I'm really going to take this because I'm saving. If I'm not getting free CP out of it, I'm not spending multiple strats. None of the strats above, besides the extra AP, would be something I would want on 2 units in the same turn, besides Strike and Fade, obviously. But even at that point, it's only turn 3 onwards. I don't really think it's an upgrade that you're going to want. All right, through Unity Devastation. So we've got the Tau Empire model only. They're making sure you can't throw these on the Kroot Shaper, which they don't like. They didn't like him having
that guy.
they didn't like him having the Scrambler and just throwing around.
Greg the Scrambler guy, I love that guy.
He was cool. So while the model is leading unit, each time that unit is an observer unit, until the end of the phase, ranged weapons equipped by models in their guided unit have the lethal hits ability. So you're going to notice that Tau don't have great anti-tank.
No.
They don't have great volume of fire, high strength, multi-damage weapons outside of things like the Storm Surge.
Or the Seeker Missiles, but those are one shot.
And Seeker Missiles, which are one shot. So they don't. They have a lot of medium strength type weapons. A lot of strength 7, a lot of strength 8. That's not awesome into Knights, but when you add lethal hits in there with the volume Tau have...
It actually becomes quite efficient. I really like this one.
Yep. The only issue I have with this is that it says while this model is leading a unit.
Yep.
Because otherwise you could put it on the Firesight Marksman and just sit there and do it all game, and that would be an upgrade I would take 100% of the time. But now I'm trying to fit it in like,
So an
Ethereal in a Breacher squad or something like that. So it's not really going to be a, I get this all game. It's going to be a, I'm going to get this on the key turn I need it. That unit's probably going to die in return. But from then on, I don't really need it this much.
£5 super chat from John Apocalypse. Thank you very much. You feel that vehicles will be too overpowered? I feel like some guns like the Fusion Blaster and Melt the Gun should have anti-vehicle ability. Also, where's Mont-Ka? Mont-Ka, I am assuming, will come when we get our Codex. When we get more than one detachment, we'll get some kind of Mont-Ka detachment, probably.
Can I just get a normal detachment where I just get my rules?
Can
I just get a normal detachment? I don't care about turns 1, 2, 3. I don't care about turns 3, 4, 5. Just give me a rule. I get it on my army. It's good. Done. Let's stop getting too clever, guys. Come on now. So I agree that Fusion Melta, it is literally the anti-tank weapon. Anti-vehicle 4+, at least. Come on.
I don't know.
I think that would be an easy change to make to help them, especially because they went down in range, in my opinion. But anyway, key ones, Exemplar the Callion, straight up automatic, and then 3 Unity Devastation. I think that's the other one I want because of the anti-tank situation.
I completely agree. Those are the 2 that I like.
Precision, if I bring that other commander, then I'll think about adding this in here. All right, but the Pure Tide ship, I think it's the worst by far because it doesn't make another strat free. It's cool that you could Overwatch twice, so if you run like a bunch of Flamer Crisis Suits, that could work, but I don't think that... Tau don't struggle with anti-infantry, in my opinion. So then drones, they're tokens. They really previewed this. They called me out, except for saying my name in the actual faction article. And they're tokens now.
So you don't place the models, you don't interact, you can't charge them, you can't do anything, you can't go score. They don't have OC or whatever. They're just tokens.
Guardian drone is good. It's -1 to wound from ranged attacks, but it's only going on your Fire Warriors. Gun drone, terrible. The marker drone, actually good. Gaining the marker like keyword is very valuable.
Just put 1 in each unit.
That's how you get that ignores cover ability, which is critical in my opinion. Missile drone, terrible. Shield drone, very good. +1 to wound is just a good ability to have. It's not as good as it used to be, but it's still one of the best drones. Okie doke. All right, into the data sheets now.
You got to zoom out, remember?
I do have to zoom out so that people can see.
There we go.
All right, Shadowsun.
Shadowsun.
You want to start with Shadowsun?
Sure.
Money, just straight up money.
100% every single list you take is her. Okay, Commander Shadowsun, movement 10, toughness 4, 3-up save, 6 wounds, leadership 6, OC 1, about what you'd expect. Her guns are pretty standard, pretty similar to what they were last edition. She hits on 2, strength 10, AP 4, D6 damage, melted 2 on her fusion blasters. Her missile pod lost an AP. She's whatever in combat. But she's got stealth, infiltrator, and lone operative.
Lone operative.
Do
you guys remember back in early 9th edition when there was a thing called bodyguard, which made things really hard to target? Lone operative is that rule in 10th edition. It is going to be massively abusive. And guess what? Spoiler alert, Tau has a lot of instances of it.
100%.
And they're all in my list.
So what else does she do? She can fall back, shoot. She can fall back and shoot, which is fine. You're not charging with her anyway, so whatever. And then she's a 6-inch aura of Riddle One's did for all Tau Empire units. She is incredible. She's -1 to wound at range from her Guardian drone. And each time you use a stratagem on a Tau Empire unit within 6 inches of her, on a 5-up you get a CP, like literally every list you take.
A third of the time I use Strike and Fade, it's only going to cost me 1 CP thanks to Shadowsun.
No, she is incredible.
She is great. The Lone Operative and the reroll 1s alone is great, and then she has other abilities on top of that.
And she's also got 2 Fusion Blasters, which help with anti-tank.
She is fantastic. All right, Commander Farsight. I was hoping, like, new model, hype rules, they just have not been adding extra rules onto Farsight for whatever reason. I assume there will be a Farsight Enclaves detachment when they get a Codex.
Probably.
So I'm hyped for that whenever that comes. But for now, he is he's basically very similar. He's still got his 4-up invuln, still mediocre shooting. Dawnblade's a little bit worse, but once per game, he can get full rerolls to hit and wounds, which is a little bit of counter assault. He's a vehicle, walker, so we can heroically intervene. But the real thing here is that when he's leading a unit, that unit gets +1 to wound when they're within 9 inches.
Yeah, you can tank shock with him, and it's kind of funny.
You can also tank shock with him, and you'll roll likely 12 dice against a lot of like infantry type stuff. But overall, the 9 inches is the killer. If it was just +1 to wound,
you'd love him.
I would quite like him a lot. But having to be within 9 inches, that means your strike and fade plays are going to be a lot less likely, and you're probably only getting one use out of the unit, and that's not what Tau needs. Tau needs to use units multiple turns out of the game.
Agreed.
So the 9 inches is the one thing that holds me back from liking him. +1 to wound is absolutely an ability that Tau want, especially on a volume of fire unit like Crisis Suits. But 9 inches, that's close. You're really only using it 1, maybe 2 turns. So not quite as universally awesome as Shadowsun, but a good ability at least.
Agreed.
Not a complete meme or something. So then we've got, go ahead and do the commander.
So we have the commander in Crisis Battlesuit. So he moves 10, toughness 5, 3-up save, 5 wounds, leadership 7, and OC 2. I'm going to go ahead and take this opportunity to discuss all of the Crisis Battlesuit weapons, so we don't have to do it when we get to all of the other commanders in the Crisis Battlesuits. So the Airbursting Fragmentation Projector is Blast, Indirect Fire, 24-inch range, D6 shots. All the commanders hit on 3s now. Crisis Suits will hit on 4s. Strength 3, AP 0, damage 1. This thing's terrible. You never take it. The Burst Cannon, Strength 5, AP 0, damage 1, but back to 4 shots, 18-inch range. Cyclic Ion Blaster is 3 shots, strength 7, AP 1, damage 1, or 3 shots, strength 8, AP 2, damage 2, hazardous. I like this. The Fusion Blaster, strength 9, AP 4, D6 damage, melt to 2, only 12-inch range though. Missile Pods, 30-inch range, 2 shots, strength 7, AP 1, damage 2, they're fine. Plasma Rifles, 24-inch range, so minus 6-inch range kind of hurts there. 1 attack, strength 8, AP 3, damage 3. And the Flamer is Ignores Cover and Torrent, D6 shots, obviously auto-hitting, strength 4, AP 0, damage 1. He has Deep Strike, he's a leader, obviously, and while he's in a unit, you can re-roll a hit roll of 1, and then he has Battlesuit support systems. You can take one of these, I believe. The unit is eligible to shoot when it falls back, or you can get a 4-up invuln, or you can ignore all your modifiers to hit roll. That is the Crisis Commander. I don't like this guy because I think you're taking Shadowsun all the time.
Yep, he has apparently not heard of Shadowsun, the fool of him.
I know.
So he's pretty much useless in my opinion. The other datasheet abilities are quite a bit stronger. I'd rather take Farsight, obviously. The one thing to note about Farsight is that if you do run him, you can't run Ethereals.
Yes.
I didn't note that, but that is something you also have to keep in mind, and we'll get to them. But Airburst, they were like, you're not using Airburst anymore. I'm surprised they didn't decrease the range again.
I know.
But Strength 3, no AP now. It is Blast. It's a good amount of fire if things like Cultist Spam or such are in the meta. But they also restrict it. You can only take 1 per model, so you can't just spam them.
Max.
So probably not doing that. Burst Cannon, also meh.
Only 4 shots.
4 shots. Strength 5 is fine, but it's less...
Just take a Cyclic and then don't overcharge it, and it's better in every way.
Strength 5 used to be a good breakpoint.
It's not.
With the toughness increase in the 10th edition. Nope, not anymore. Cyclic is still awesome, guys.
Yes.
Still awesome. You're going to see that the Coldstar can take Cyclic, which...
I think you just take max Cyclic on everything.
So basically, how you need to think about Cyclic is it's the prime anti-infantry killer in this. And when you need to kill tanks, you overcharge, and you're like, if I lose a couple models, at least I killed that key tank that I need to kill.
So basically, consider the Cyclic is strength 7, AP 1, damage 1, 3 shots, and in a pinch, you're going to go to strength 8, AP 2, damage 2.
Yep. On top of that, so Fusion Blaster would like it if it was still 18, but 12-inch range
is not where you want to be.
It's just iffy as well. Getting within half for the extra to the more consistent damage is meh. Missile Pod, also relatively meh. I'd rather run the Plasma and have a bit shorter range because AP 3 ignore cover with For the Greater Good.
It's really quite good.
It's very rare.
Good,
Flat 3 damage in volume isn't also that common among armies. Okay. So Cyclic and Plasma are the ones that stand out to me. Now there is a combo with the Flamers where you could actually turn 3 onward with the Stratagem, point blank ambush, as well as having Farsight in the unit for +1 to wound within 9 inches. That unit can be scary.
Yes.
So if that unit is significantly a cheaper version of the Crisis Suits, I might go for that. I'm talking about all the weapons now, so we don't have to go through them again.
Yep, these are all the same on every suit.
They're all the same, so I'm just going to break down the weapons now, and then Battlesuit Fists, whatever.
Who cares?
Okay. Battlesuit support system, fallback and shoot, great ability to have. And it's on a model-per-model basis now. The War Gear lets the unit be eligible, but then only models with the War Gear piece can actually shoot. And then, so if you just put one in a unit, the unit is eligible to shoot, so you could potentially do an action if you needed to, which is cool. I would always have like at least one in there, generally. Shield generator, same as it has been. And then the weapon support system is one that is quite valuable in that there are a lot of modifiers to hit, whether stealth or otherwise in the game, and just flat ignoring them is quite good. Because they're vehicles now, big guns never tire means that they can shoot into other vehicles that are in combat, or they can just shoot out of combat into a different unit. They would take the -1, but you're like, War Gear support system, not taking it.
We'll see. Before we go on, we have a $10 super chat from Zachary Bell. If gun drones are like 5 points, could they be simmable on a 6-man crisis unit? They'd be 2 extra shots, PS4 when guided, double exploding 6s, reroll wounds. I don't hate them. I think my issue is that Tau don't struggle for strength 5 stuff. I'd rather just have the extra wounds on my super important crisis unit.
Tau has always been a very good anti-infantry volume of fire army. They don't need to double down on that role, and I don't think, based on looking at the other indexes, that the game is going to be spamming terrible armor save, low toughness units. I think there's going to be a lot of vehicles in the meta and a lot of durable stuff. And in that case, you need to be able to punch up against them. So that's where things like the cyclic overcharge profile, plasma, or potentially fusions are going to shine the most.
I think if the meta shifts and we end up with 4,000 cultists and Abaddon is the way forward,
then Tower easy win, baby. Shots, exploding, sustained hits too. It's all dead.
Yeah.
So if that's the direction, Tower in a great spot. But I think they need to lean more into the anti-tank aspects because that's the weaker part of the book overall. Okay. So I'm definitely a big fan of having the shield drones to increase the wounds. And whether you want to go with shield gens or the ignore modifiers, and then have one guy with the fallback and shoot just so you can fall back and do actions. Because being able to shoot out of combat is quite strong.
Agreed.
Okay, Enforcer Commander, he keeps his 2-up save. He's 6 wounds now instead of 7. He can't get the Bagel 100 plate because it doesn't exist anymore.
Sad.
If it did, I totally would take it.
Yeah.
His role is when he's leading a unit, that it's -1 to incoming AP when ranged attacks, which is quite solid.
Good, yeah.
Because it's so easy for, even though crisis suits are vehicles now, guess what? It's so easy to get cover because your opponent is going to have a hard time fully seeing the unit and fully seeing models. So because of that, it's pretty easy to just get cover on them, and then you go ahead and throw on a -1 AP. They don't need shield generators in that case because you can tank most damage without it. Maybe you just put 2 in the unit.
Yeah. We got a $5 super chat from Arrogant Claw. Going to be heading home during the Necron stream, so I'll send this now. How do you think Death Guard players felt seeing so many feeling the pains Necrons got? I think I speak for all of us when I say we're angry.
At least they're on specific things and not just a giant unit gets it.
Yeah.
But it's specific things have it.
At least you're durable.
They are durable. Necrons are way more durable than Death Guard. Mwah. Thank you, Games Workshop. We'll get to Necrons after Tau.
Yep.
But don't you worry. Okay, so that's the Enforcer Commander. If you're building toward... How I think about them is you've got a speed build with Crisis Suits, and that's going to involve the Coldstar, which we're about to get to. You got a defense build that's built around the Enforcer Commander.
And then you've got a Trash Commander you never take.
Forget about the Crisis. Then you have an offense, a close-range offense one with Farsight.
Agreed, yeah.
And it's those 3 archetypes that I'm really thinking about for Crisis Suits. Coldstar Commander. I think this guy's the best one.
100%.
Personally.
I completely agree.
Speed kills, and this guy gives you a lot of speed. So he gives the unit he's in 12-inch move. So Crisis Suits go from 10 to 12. That seems fine. Yep. But the key ability is he gives them Assault. Okay? And Assault is something that Games Workshop viciously took away from most of the weapons that Tau have, which have just always been Assault.
Yep.
Instead, it is now granted to a Crisis unit's weapons through this commander. And that's important because they flat advance 6 on their data sheet. So now the unit just moves 18 inches, it's going to shoot you, and then it's going to strike and fade 12 inches back. That's an outrageous amount of firepower that can hit you from quite far away.
And then leave.
And then just leave and get out of there.
Yeah, by far the best one.
So I think the Coldstar's money. On top of that, they buffed him by letting him take cyclic ion blasters, which previously the Coldstar couldn't because of some technical lore thing.
We got a $5 super chat from Super Baharoth. Why are Battlesuits vehicles and walkers, LOL? I know it lets you shoot into combat, but there are a lot of negatives to it as well. I don't know, man. They probably shouldn't have been infantry. I guess vehicles and walkers make some sense. I'm annoyed about it. They can't go through walls. But if Christ suits could go through walls, they'd be pretty nutty.
They would be exceedingly nutty. I think they were trying to stop the fact of, I have 3 crisis units, and none of them you're really interacting with. 2 are on the flanks, 1 strike and fading in the middle of the table. You just can't do anything about it. Tau in the previous edition was very oppressive for certain armies, where they literally couldn't do anything while you just got to laugh the whole game. So this is trying to force you to play maybe 1 crisis unit, which I think is the way.
You probably take 1 and probably leave it at 1.
1 crisis unit is very strong. All right, so the Coldstar, I think he's the money in the bank. It's so good based on the datasheet rule that crisis suits have.
Yep.
I think he's the guy. Now, if he's dramatically more expensive than the other ones, then I'll think about the Enforcer.
It is like the crisis command or the Coldstar commander, then the Enforcer, and then the crisis commander.
Farsight, then
whatever.
Then the crisis commander, in my opinion. Cadre Fireblade. So this guy buffs up your Fire Warriors, in particular Breachers. Once again, Breachers are just dramatically better than Fire Warriors. We'll get to them in a second. He's only 3 wounds now, so he's pretty easy to snipe out. And Volley Fire is just +1 attacks characteristic to ranged weapons. So your Breachers, normally 10 dudes is 20 shots. Now it's 30. It's a lot of firepower. They have a great datasheet rule, which we'll see in a second. And then he has Crack Shot, which is whatever. His gun itself isn't particularly impressive.
$2 super chat from Super Baharoth. You can tank shock with Farsight. Yeah, I mentioned that. It's really funny.
You're basically against almost all...
3 mortals.
Yep, you're basically rolling 12 dice and you'll do 3-4 mortals. So that's pretty solid overall.
And you can give him a marker drone, so you can... the Fireblade.
Yep.
So you can be an observer.
Yep, you can give the Fireblade a marker light and then give him a shield drone for an extra wound, and that's fine. Kroot Shaper, this guy is dramatically less valuable because he's not taking a Scrambler, but he's Scout 7, Stealth, which is going to be a key thing for Kroot, as they just have Stealth now, which is nice. While the model's leading unit, models get a 6-up Feel No Pain, which is cool. If they end up killing an enemy unit, they get a 4-up Feel No Pain. Kroot aren't killing anything.
Nope.
They lost some of the bonuses that they had. They're pretty darn just mediocre in general.
We don't want to take them.
And it's going to depend on point. If they're dirt cheap again, then you'll probably take them as just cheap sit-in-your-backfield type unit. Yeah. But if not, then I don't think you're seeing them. Each time this model ends a charge move until the end of the turn, +3 attacks. It's like, come on, what is this? You're literally wasting paper writing these garbage rules. Give it something impactful, or just don't write anything and make it cheap as chips. The Ethereal. The Ethereal is good. So this is the reason that Farsight isn't as high, in my opinion, is because Ethereals are actually good. And guess what? In your command phase, roll a d6 on a 4-up, you gain a CP.
It's not capped with the number of Ethereals, so you can roll 3 or 4 or whatever.
So the thing is, Tau wants CP specifically for Strike and Fade. And if you're not discarding tactical objectives, then this is the way to regen your CP.
Yep.
So I actually quite like him. If he's in a unit, it has a 5 of Feel No Pain as well, which is cool. But if the hover version could join the Crisis unit, that would have been money in the bank, but he can only join the Breacher and Strike teams, in which case they're still going to die.
Yeah. One thing to note, he doesn't have to be on the table, it's just in your command phase, so he can be in I'm pretty sure he can be in a Devilfish.
Can you resolve ability if you're in a transport? Is the question. I don't think so.
Okay.
Typically not.
Put him behind a wall.
Put him behind a wall. Sit on an objective. All right, so that's the Ethereal. I actually quite like that because CP, not for the 5 of Feel No Pain, that's whatever. Yeah. That 4-up CP.
Aun'va.
I
love him, not for the reason you think.
You were skeptical on
I was
on
skeptical.
Aun'va.
You convinced me.
I've convinced you.
Yeah.
You're looking at this data sheet and you're like, Aun'va is going to be a great buffing piece for my army and he's going to be cool and synergistic. Take that out of your brain and throw it away. This guy, his aura ability is completely mediocre and possibly garbage. It's +1 to battle shock and leadership tests, which is fine. It's only for units within 6. Completely mediocre, whatever. Don't care about that. His other 2 rules, however, are meme-tastic, and they're actually good. Or 3 rules, excuse me. Lone Operative, first of all. So, dude can just stand on an objective out in the open. Can't do anything about it. Come within 12 of him. if you want to. And this is important because Tau are going to suffer with controlling objectives in the middle of the table.
Yes.
That's not been their strong suit. Breachers and Devilfish can contest easily, but then they die in return. This guy can survive on objectives, and there's a specific one called Sites of Power, where you need characters in the middle on the No Man's Land objectives to score you extra primary points. Aun'va is literally tailor-made for that job. Sit on that objective, get me a bunch of extra points, you're the man. Now, the reason why he's extra good is because your opponent finally does get close to you, and you're like, okay, cool, you put something really annoying in front of me. Maybe I can't kill it, maybe I want to kill other stuff. You take Aun'va, and you charge in, and then you pop a 2-up invul. He's -1 to hit and wound in shooting and combat, and you just tank on 2-ups.
Yep.
Doesn't say you can't reroll them too, so you can spend a reroll if you need to.
3 bottles
and
in the unit.
You just take their damage dealing unit that's in front of you, and you're like, cool, you're gonna suffer against Aun'va for a turn and do nothing. Especially if they can't fall back and shoot. This guy is the best, meme-tastic missile you could possibly
He's
want.
also leadership 7.
He's leadership 7 for some bizarre reason.
Why?
I don't know. He has worse leadership than orcs. Yeah. But this dude is literally this damage dealing, this combat army with a volume of attacks. It's going to hit my army if I can't deal with it, and I got to kill some other stuff. Aun'va, get in there, 2-up invul, -1 to hit, -1 to wound. And he just survives. He's 5 wounds. Each of the Ethereal Guard is 2 wounds.
Yeah.
He's just going to literally tank on a 2-up save. He is amazing. Now, if he's crazy expensive, obviously we're not going to take him. But if he's cheap, the lone operative plus those rules, get him in your lists. Forget about a buffing piece. He is literally jammed into your opponent's crazy combat units and stuff.
I think he is actually the least damaging model in the history of the game. 1 attack hitting on 6's strength 2, AP 0, damage 1.
I think he's worse than a Gretchen. I don't remember the Gretchen. He's worse than a Gretchen. But guys, that is a good data sheet. It's not for the reasons you want him to be, but he's a good data sheet. Okay? Lone operative, if you just had lone operative and just deleted all the other roles, he'd still be worth it.
Yeah.
Lone operative is beyond crazy, and we're going to get to some of the other ones.
Okay, we have a 50, I don't know what that currency is, from Dejos, the Gazebo Taker. I'm a longtime board gamer, and I've accumulated a ludicrous amount of mushroom figures which look very similar to Tau drones. Can I use the mushrooms as drone proxies in 140k play? You can use whatever you want. The drones actually aren't models anymore.
So you can use them model them onto your actual models, but drones are now tokens, and you can't actually use them outside of the tactical drone unit.
Yes.
So there is one unit you could actually use it for.
Yes.
Yes, Aun'va is the greatest tank that you could possibly want.
Yep.
He is the man. Okay, Aun'shi. He has a cool ability where it's +1 objective control to the unit he's leading, which is cool. It means you could just drop a breacher squad out and be like 30 OC.
Yep. I think I like this guy. He's very cost dependent. If he's in the 60, 70 range, I might like him. His combat is cute, but ignore it, doesn't actually do anything.
He is really valuable if armies like Necrons, a dominant primary army, are an issue for Tau. In that case, just being all right, this turn I can't kill this darn unit in front of me. I'm going to send Aun'shi and his creature team and touch the objective. I don't care how many models you have. His combat ability is whatever.
Yeah,
who cares about that?
Yeah.
Okay. But he's not lone operative. That would put, once again, if he was lone operative, well, then I would just take him. Darkstrider.
Yep.
All right. Infiltrator, leader, scouts. He can join Pathfinders only. So he gives Pathfinders +1 to wounds. Cool. It's not bad. And then he has the only instance of your opponent can't come within reserves within 12 inches of you.
His gun has damage 2. It's cute. It's assault.
No AP, but he's basically there as I'm going to push back my opponent's reserves, and armies like Grey Knights are going to get, or GSC are going to try and appear 3.1 away. This guy's nope, can't do that. And if he happens to join a Pathfinder unit, +1 to wound, should be cool on rail rifles. Whatever. Yeah. All right. Moving on to Longstrike. So he's a Hammerhead. Do you want to go through the Hammerhead profile?
So all of the Hammerheads have the same guns. Move 10, toughness 10, 3-up save, 14 wounds, leadership. Really low leadership in this army. 3 OC. The accelerated burst cannons, of which you have 2, 4 attacks hitting on 4, strength 6, AP 0, damage 1. The pulse carbines are drones. And then the smart missile system is indirect fire, twin linked, 4 shots, strength 5, AP 0, damage 1. Notably not ignores cover.
SMS is garbage.
It's terrible.
They completely nerfed SMS and they were like, Tau aren't allowed to have indirect fire.
Yes.
The rest of the game, totally fine. Tau, no.
Okay, so the ion cannons are D6 plus 3 shots, strength 7, AP 1, damage 2, or strength 8, AP 2, damage 3, overcharged. You probably always overcharge it. And then the railgun is 1 shot, strength 20, AP 5, D6 plus 6 damage, devastating wounds, heavy. This thing is garbage. You never take it. It's horrible.
The thing is, like, this should have gotten a strength bump.
Yep.
The ion cannon.
Yeah.
How is it the same strength as the cyclic? Just make it higher strength.
Yeah. Hammerhead's a miss. Hammerhead's a big miss.
Hammerheads are terrible, guys. They're terrible.
Yeah.
Forget about that.
What does Longstrike do specifically? He gives you +1 to hit against monsters and vehicles. He already has heavy on the railgun. I don't know. Each time this is selected to shoot, you can reroll 1 hit roll or 1 wound roll. That is nice. It is required to make him function.
The problem is that there's invulns all over the game.
Yeah.
Again, it's the same problem that the railgun used to have, is that your opponent would make an invuln and you do nothing for your expensive tank.
Yep.
And
It's 1 shot.
problem.
The odds of you missing are like kind of, even with the reroll, kind of high.
And then his pilot battlesuit ability, which used to be his real awesome roll, is hilariously stupid.
You pick a hammerhead gunship and they get lethal hits. If it was any unit, I'd be awesome.
If it was any unit,
it's lethal hits on your strength 20 gun. Like, what are we doing?
I need those hits to be lethal. In that case, so that I don't proc devastating wounds if I happen to roll a 6 to wound.
Yeah.
It's terrible. It's terrible.
Yeah.
All right, move on from that. Strike team. Also terrible.
Also terrible.
Their guns
Their
are
guns
garbage.
lost AP. They overwatch on 4s if you're on an objective, which is cute.
And they're going to overwatch against what exactly?
Yeah.
They're going to kill nothing on Overwatch.
I think you average 1 Space Marine.
Barely.
Cool. Take Breachers. They're actually very good.
Breachers, let's get to an actual good data sheet here. So, 6-inch move, T3, still same stuff. But the Pulse Blaster, it's now one of the few weapons that just has assault, so you can advance and do actions with the unit. It's only 10-inch range now. It doesn't have the extra profile. 2 shots. Hits on 3s.
Huge.
Same ballistic skill as a commander,
Yep.
somehow. Strength 6, AP 1, 1 damage. So these guys have pretty solid profile. They did lose a point of AP, but with how easy it is to access Ignore's Cover now, it's not the end of the world. And keeping the Strength 6 instead of Strength 5 is very, very nice, especially because those elite units went up in a toughness. Now, its data sheet rule is also awesome. You just get to, each time you make an attack against a unit on an objective, reroll wounds.
Yep, that's
fantastic.
Amazing.
So
10 of these guys in a double fish with a Fireblade is going to be a key staple of Talus.
Battle line, they get the Marker Light keyword without having to take the Marker Light drone, which is super nice. And they have the grenades keyword,
so you can throw grenades.
Block some mortals as well. These guys are fantastic observers because they're BS3, which means that you can just give the +1 ballistic skill to your crisis units. These guys stay sitting on 3s, or you can go ahead and spend the 1 CP to let them get hit on 2s. And in that case, super efficient all across the board. These guys are very good. They are the troop unit, in my opinion.
100%.
Once again, I wish you could go, just let us take them in the 5-mans again. I don't know why we're arbitrarily doing 10-mans for certain armies. Other armies get 5-mans. Should be 5-mans. I love them as 5-mans. 10-mans gets a little pricey, usually. All right, but once again, if they're a bit cheaper than
Kroot
they
Carnivores. Their guns are the same. They're OC1. They have Stealth, Scout 7. If you destroy an enemy in the fight phase till the end of the battle, you get a 5-up Feel No Pain. That is never going to happen.
Yep,
cool. Don't take Kroot.
Entirely depends on how cheap Kroot are versus Fire Warriors.
Yes.
Because Fire Warriors do damage and have a very, very good rule. Sorry, Breachers, specifically. Carnivores, on the other hand, are just there to sit on an objective the whole game, basically. But you could take them up to 20 model unit if you want to. If you want to get crazy with it. The Krootox is, once again, probably going to be just a cheap MSU skirmishing thing because its damage is widely mediocre, and its rule is, while 1 or more friendly Kroot units are within 6, they get a +1 to hit.
Sure.
Which, if I'm really trying to kill stuff with Kroot, I've got bigger problems. But if you're playing like a 500-point game of pure Kroot versus, like Jakaro and stuff, then that's the rule for you. Okay, Crisis Battlesuits. Yes, they're vehicles. Yes, they're walkers. But I already said the combo. You make a move 12-inch move, flat 6 advance. So they're moving 18. They get assault from the Coldstar, and then you strike and fade them 12. This unit is still incredibly brutal. Its strength of its weapons, besides the fusion, didn't really increase to fit the increased toughness of the game. But they have crazy volume of fire when you put the Exemplar of the Kalyan upgrade on the Coldstar. And you just start getting every 6 is 2 additional hits. It gets wild really, really quickly. And if you really need +1 to wound, you could take Farsight instead. It's a slower unit, and so that in that way you're just kind of fire and fading behind a terrain piece on your half of the table. I like the threat of the Coldstar, getting that unit
I think the Coldstar
all
is
over
way
the
better.
table. Especially late game, you can just easily touch objectives.
Yeah.
So, and that's what Tau are going to play. They're going to delay you in
also
early turns.
Move and strike and fade forward late game, yeah.
Exactly. In the early game, you're going to strike and fade back behind terrain. In the late game, you're going to get into your opponent's half of the board, get behind their terrain features. So I still like Crisis Suits, like we talked about. Cyclic, Plasma, and Fusion are the ones that stand out the best. But there could be a Flamer variant, in my opinion. All right. Obviously, you take 2 shield drones. What I would do is the commander himself would take a marker drone and a shield drone. All the Crisis Suits with 2 shield drones. And then I'd put some amount of shield generators in here, maybe 2 to 3. And then the rest is one guy to fall back and shoot with, so I can fall back and do an action if I really need to. And then the rest are the ignore modifiers. So just have like a split of them so I have some flex. If you run multiple units, then you probably don't need that, and you can focus on like a durable unit to be committed early, and then a second one that has like ignore modifiers and switch them as needed. Stealth Battlesuits.
One of the best units in the book.
They are quite solid, so they have Infiltrators, great rule to have. Also Stealth, obviously, it's Stealth Suits. Forward Observers, so when they're acting as an observer unit, the guided unit, when they target the spotted unit, rerolls 1s to wound. So this is one of the few ways to reroll wounds, potentially, for Tau, and quite effective. Like, once again, if you're shooting your cyclics, all of a sudden you can potentially put reroll 1s to wound on here, and just help get against those higher toughness things, just more wounds flipping through. However, it is competing with other observer units for their different buffs. So, unique one here. I quite like it. I think you're going to have one unit just to sit on an objective, and then you pop it out when you actually want to reroll 1s to wounds. Is probably how I think about it. Maybe
like
2.
I like 2 units of these.
The other thing is the homing beacon. So once per battle, obviously, you can use rapid ingress for 0 CP. The target has to be set up within, not wholly within 3 of the bear's unit, and not within 9. So you could just have them behind a midfield terrain piece. Your opponent's going first here, and they move up. The second turn, they're now in the center of the board, and you're like, boom, end your movement phase, I'm right behind this terrain feature, and I'm going to hit you auto. So I like that combination when you're running either the Fusion variant or the Flamers with Farsight, and you have to get close and want to kind of threaten that type of play.
Will I really am? £2 super chat. Can you explain why shield drones are so good? Yes. +2 wounds.
So Crisis Suit goes up to 6 wounds per model. You could have a 4-up invuln on them. You could have 6 of Pheno Pain from stim injectors. They're going to benefit from cover pretty easily. So you can tank quite a bit of damage with a 6-wound Crisis model.
Yes.
It also means, for the purposes of Hazardous, that they're like 2 full. You obviously take 3 mortals now. So a full Crisis model will take the 2. But you don't. The thing is, the gun drones don't really do anything because you don't need that type of firepower. And the marker drone, you only need 1 in the unit.
Yeah.
You only need 1 to gain the marker-like keyword, so that can just go on the commander.
Yep.
Who's going to be targeted last, unless they have precision. It's not as good as shield drones used to be, but it's still it's the best of the drone buffs, in my opinion. It's just +2 wounds. It's nice. Okay, so that Stealth Suit's great mission play. Can easily score you different things. Great action unit as well. And they also have the upgrade for fallback and shoot, which means they can fall back and still do an action because they're eligible to shoot, which very good to have. Okay, Ghostkeel. Guys, start building your Ghostkeels right now. Amazing. They have this word right here.
Lone Operative.
Lone Operative.
So you got your Shadowsun, you got your Ghostkeels, you got Aun'va.
So why is this so good? Well, it has to be... You can only target this unit with ranged attacks if you're within 12 inches. So let's look at its profile. Moves 10 inches. It's T8 now. It's 2-up save and how easy it is to get cover. So it's basically going to sit on a 1-up against non-AP 0 weapons. 12 wounds, leadership 7, whatever. OC3 is not bad. And then of the 2 weapons, I like the Raker because 36-inch range means they can just sit there on the firing angles and shoot all game. I'm going to overcharge it because it's rolling 1 die on a 1. I'll take the mortals, but whatever. It's not going to get targeted for most of the game. Strength 8, AP2, flat 3. Nice profile to have. The fusion isn't bad if your opponent's plant is going to like kind of rush you down, but 18 inches means you're very close to that area where you're getting shot the next turn. Whereas 36, I can just step back for a turn and then move up when I need to. The other twin weapons are all completely mediocre, but I'll take the fusion just to have a little bit of anti-tank, in my opinion.
$2 super chat from Preston Johnson. Thought shield drones only work on the model some. That's correct. That's why every crisis suit takes 2 shield drones.
Yep. Any model can take 2, and the commander can take 2 as well. So you just load them up with extra wounds. Is basically what you do. So they're a lot tankier against small arms fire. By like a significant margin, especially because they can get cover quite easily. Since even though they're vehicles, they can at least get cover. Okay. So Ghostkeel, like I said, I think I go Twin Fusion and the Cyclic just for that extra range. But his Stealth, Infiltrator, and Lone Operative, critical keywords, and then the stealth drones are by far the best drones in the book. They are twice per battle, doesn't say once per turn or anything like that. After an attack has been allocated to the model, you can change the damage of that attack to 0.
Notably, this is before the save is rolled, but if someone shoots you with, like, a railgun, you're just like, no.
Yeah, they shoot you. The hammerhead rushes up, gets within 12 of you, shoots its railgun shot, and you're like 0 damage on that for sure. 2 bright lances come at you.
Who cares?
You're like, nope, 0-0, not worrying about it. And it's not like the first failed save or anything like that. So your opponent can put a bunch of random shots into you if they're within 12. And then the anti-tank comes and you're like 0-0, done. Ghostkeel lives, your whole plan is foiled, you're dead.
The Ghostkeel is durable enough that it's not going to die to random crap. It's toughness 8, 2 up, 12 wounds. Like, Bolter is doing literally nothing to this thing. So you have to put real anti-tank guns, and this means the first 2 that are scary, you're just like, nah.
It's got the smoke keyword, which lets it gain stealth. Like, what is that?
It already has stealth? That's awesome.
I don't understand that. But you lose the smoke keyword if you fall back and if you take the Battlesuit support system. I'm going to take the Battlesuit support system here to fall back and shoot. Craziness. So, Ghostkeel is amazing. I have 1 fully built and painted. I am in the progress of making 2 more. They're really good. You don't need 4 of them. No. You don't need 4, but fantastic unit. It is finally the time of the Ghostkeel. You know what's very annoying? You guys were like, here's all this long-range fire that Tau might die to. I'm like, how about if they get within 12 of me, they might be able to do damage to me. That's the kind of Tau that's going to happen. Is you're going to have your half of the board, and your opponent's going to have to get within 12 inches of you to do anything. And you're going to laugh as they struggle to get within 12 inches because Tau have excellent move blocking tools. They're never going to get within 12. They're never going to get within 12, and you're going to just survive on objectives. So Tau, hilariously, are one of the best armies for surviving on objectives wide out in the open. So on those player-placed objective missions, on the ones where you have to move them, Tau actually have some really good tools for that, which is different than they have in the past.
5 Canadian Super Chat from Musilla Delt. Aren't shield drones worth it only if they turn out to be cheap? If they stay the same, would you really spend 30 points in model for 4 wounds? Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't spend 30 points for...
If they're 15 points, no way.
Yeah, no way. I'm assuming they're cheap. Jose. I'm assuming drones are much cheaper now.
Okay, so, right, here we go. We got 3 Ghostkeels in our army. We got Shadowsun, we got Aun'va. We got a bunch of things that our opponent cannot target if they're not within 12 of our side of the board, like our objective, basically our objectives. So that, not a lot of vehicles have assault and can advance and get up into range. So you'll have turns before they even get close enough. And when they do get close enough, you're like 10 Kroot in front of you. Okay, you can't land behind the Kroot, so you're not getting within 12. Done. You just cannot interact with Tau.
Next turn, Aun'va charges out.
So, like our list right now, we're looking at 3 of these guys. We're looking at all the lone operatives we can take. And then we have a crisis unit that's moving 18 and then striking and fading 12. Non-interactive Tau is the way to go. Delay them in the early game, kill them in the late game. Here we go. Okay. Firesight Team, you're like, wow, these guys have been terrible. But then you look over to their abilities and it says Lone Operative. And you're like, get those into my list, jam them in there. Infiltrators on top of that so they can sit at the same firing angle as Shadowsun and the Ghostkeels, who are just shooting with your opponent cannot do anything about it. Awesome. Stealth on top of that if they happen to get shot at. This is the one thing I was like, if this thing could lead a unit, it would take the 3 Unity Devastation, but it can't. While it's the guided unit, it can get rerolls to hit, but who cares about that? It's heavy in precision, so it just sits there. If your opponent has characters out in the open, you could actually try and snipe them. And once again, it's very easy for Tau to get ignore cover. So 3 shots, strength 5, AP 1, 2 damage. You can actually snipe out a lot of these 3 wound characters quite easily.
I like this unit a lot.
This unit is awesome.
$5 super chat from Super Baharoth. Am I really living in a world where Ghostkeels, Flash Kits, and Melee Aun'va are desirable elements? Yes, you are.
Not only desirable, but get them in the list. They're so good. So take at least 2 of these, if not all 3, and just Right now, like, a huge part of our army is just your opponent can't do anything about it. You were, like, worried about guards standing over there shooting you with their tanks.
Who cares?
Are they within 12 inches of my objectives? No, they're not. They're not doing anything. Just laugh in their face. Indirect fire trying to shoot across the board. Guess what? You're not taking me off objectives, lone operative boys.
That Wraith Knight, who cares?
Yeah, exactly. Bring all your Eldar indirect fire. You can't target me, so get out of here. This is the sauce. I was telling you, it's janky, but it is very strong, I think. Okay, Pathfinder Team. We mentioned it. This is the one that Darkstrider can go into. And their unique ability is that once per turn, when you're using the Greater Good ability, they can be selected as an observer for a second time.
Yep.
And it could be a different unit. So, pretty cool ability. Unfortunately, once again, they're still 10-mans, so I don't expect them to be super cheap.
If these are 5-mans, I'd love these.
5-mans, they would be fantastic.
They have a bunch of random weapons. You can take the Rail Rifle, which is devastating wounds and heavy. Hits on 5s, but heavies with 4s. Strength 10, AP 4, damage 3. Or you can take the Rail Rifle, which is Strength 7, AP 1, damage 1, 3 shots. Or Overcharge, 3 shots, Strength 8, AP 2, damage 2. Take which one, like, you think your list needs to fix. I don't hate the Rail Rifle for Strength 10, but hitting on 5s is real rough. Mm-hmm. And these guys probably don't want to be standing still, because if they're standing still, they're just dead, and they don't have lone operative.
Yep. They're just going to die in return, kind of like stealth suits when they pop out and act, which is why this Firesight Marksman is so good.
Important.
He just sits there. He's the marker-like keyword. He is just giving you ignores cover and guiding that unit all the time as an observer. So, fantastic unit. Okay, so let's go ahead, and their various abilities are all fine. Meh. We'll see how many points, but they do have grenades, so they could pop some mortals as well. Piranha is great.
I love the Pirhana.
You want to tell us about the Piranha?
So the Pirhana is move 14, toughness 7, 4-up save, 7 wounds, so not like
T7.
Fragile, but actually like you're not going to kill it with small arms fire. OC 2. It's got a Piranha burst cannon, which is strength 6, AP 1, damage 1, or a Piranha fusion blaster, which is strength 9, AP 4, damage D6, melt of 4. I like the fusion blaster. It's a great source of anti-tank. And then every Piranha has 2 twin pulse carbines and 2 seeker missiles, which are strength 14, AP 3, D6 plus 1 damage. Scouts 9 inches, and at the end of your movement phase, you select an enemy unit within 12 inches, and that unit must take a battle shock. Love this thing.
Especially because it doesn't have to be a visible unit. So
Nope,
you just move it behind
unit.
the terrain feature, and boom, you just pick one of these units, force them to take a battle shock. All of a sudden, they fail that test, they're 0 OC, and you don't have to worry about contesting that objective, which is cool. So, I like that they're a way to get a bunch of fusion and seeker missiles in your list, and just have a volume of anti-tank.
And you take some Piranhas, they all have seeker missiles, they all pop out, they shoot
and
them.
Scouts 9 is great.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Yep. So a lot of infiltrating units, a lot of scouts. Tau can be all over the board in the early game. All right. Let's go to Vespids. So they move 12. They are T4, 4-up save, and they have a decent gun, strength 5, AP 2, 2 damage. They don't have for the greater good, but they do have free deep strike. And at the end of your movement phase, not the end of your opponent's turn, which is usually how these rules are written, so could be a typo. If this is not within engaged range, you can put them into strategic reserves, which, cool. This is a good mission play unit.
Yeah.
It can score you engaged.
Cheap, you take 2 or 3 of them, they just go out and do that.
Yep, so comes down to cost. What of the cheap units are going to be good in this Tau book? We don't know yet, but when we find out, we're just going to take a bunch of them. Yep. So it used to be Kroot Hounds. Who knows what they're going to be now?
Speaking of Kroot Hounds.
Kroot Hounds, 0 OC. They did not like the Kroot Hounds spam.
Kroot Hounds, again, don't actually do anything. They still scout move. I still don't hate them, assuming they're pretty cheap because the unit doesn't do anything. I'm assuming they're good for like going and pushing buttons. Screenings.
Although you have lone operatives to screen your backfield, so not quite as important anymore. But something that could just, be a screen holding your backfield if you don't take the lone operatives. Because I assume they're going to be dirt cheap.
Yep.
Broadside Battlesuits. I'm kind of surprised with that status sheet. So they move 5 inches, T6 only.
Yeah, I was really surprised by that.
Very surprised at T6. Honestly, Crisis Suits should have gone to T6.
Agreed.
And then Broadside should have gone to T7,
Mm-hmm.
T8. 2-up save, though. So 2-up save and cover is still very good. It is a vehicle and walker. 8 wounds apiece. And you can take, once again, drones. So you can make it a 10-wound battlesuit. And the heavy rail rifle is one of the better anti-tank guns in this book.
I actually kind of like it.
It's one of the few good ones, frankly. As you're seeing, they just forgot that anti was a rule in this edition and just didn't give it to Tau.
Yep.
It's shocking, frankly. How is this not anti-vehicle?
I don't know.
It is literally anti-vehicle, the rail weapon.
Are there any we have so far?
No.
I don't think there's a single anti-weapon in here.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think they just literally forgot that was a thing when they were writing this, because it's not in here. Heavy devastating wounds, it would be very good, even if it was just anti-vehicle 4+. Mm-hmm. So 2 shots, 60-inch range, all the range you need. Hits on 4s, you can make it BS3, and reroll 1s from Shadowsun. Strength 12, AP4. AP4 ignores cover, once again. Is
quite good.
Very rare. D6 +1. All right, cool. Then high-yield missile pods, no. What is that profile? That's terrible.
Don't take that.
Seeker missile, you can decide which options you want to take. The twin plasma is not too bad. 1 shot is not great, but at least you get to reroll the wounds. And SMS is terrible. Mm-hmm. They have one of the weirdest datasheet abilities.
4-up Viola Pain against mortal
wounds. What is going on? How is this their rule?
I don't know.
It should be something else. But anyway, these guys are actually relatively durable, so they could stand at 1 firing angle and just sit there on a 1-up and with 10 wounds and just try and get +1 to hit. Because the thing is, with heavy, you get +1 to hit, marker light, +1 ballistic skill, so just hit on 2s, reroll 1s from Shadowsun, and actually do some good damage into a vehicle. So it's one of the better anti-tank weapons. I like broadsides more than hammerheads, personally.
They're quite good into Wraith Knights.
And not much is. They'd be better if they had anti, but yep. That's the broadside data sheet. Then we've got Riptides here. Mm-hmm. So 10-inch movement, T9, 2-up save. Once again, is so easy to get cover on them. Mm-hmm. So these guys are very tanky. 14 wounds, 4 OC. Heavy burst cannon. AP1 just isn't doing it, but at least it ignores cover. So it's not the worst profile. Mm-hmm. But you're probably taking the Ion Accelerator and just overcharging it. If you roll the 1, you roll the 1.
Whatever.
Strength 8, once again, it should be higher.
It
should be Strength 9, Strength 10.
Yeah,
this should be Strength 10, and then the cannon should be 9,
Agreed.
I think. Or it should be like Strength 11, cannons
Look
10.
at the size of that gun. How is it Strength 8?
There's no way. Why is all Ion? They were like, Ion is just Strength 8. I'm like, no, it's not. Let's start reading some lore, guys. Let's start getting into the lore.
Well, Ion was Strength 8 when everything was Toughness 8, and now everything is up in Toughness, and Ion's the same. Okay, cool.
It should not be the same. Yeah. It's definitely for the different guns. Anyway, AP3, once again, ignoring cover quite easily for the greater good, and flat 4 damage. Once per battle, you can make it dev wounds. That's pretty darn mediocre, frankly. And then you can take the twin plasma, which also, whatever, like I said. The cool thing is it gets both the Battlesuit support system and the War Gear support system.
I don't love the Riptide.
I don't love it, but honestly, if it's a bit cheaper, I would actually like it.
It doesn't fire and fade anymore.
Ignore modifiers and also fall back and shoot is not bad. And you just peek it out. It's going to sit on a 1-up. Yeah. It's got the 4-up invuln. It's pretty tanky. All right. Hammerhead, we already went through Longstrike.
It's a worse version of Longstrike.
It's got the reroll to hit or to wound, which is good. Like, the gun is not too inconsistent. Mm-hmm. Your opponent just makes an invuln and you do nothing. And that's not what Tau can afford. So, and it also gets +1 to hit against monsters and vehicles. Mm-hmm. So it can just sit there, basically, and hit on 2s with the heavy on the railgun. But like I said, they just make 1 save and you do nothing. That's not it. So, no. If they kept ignore invulns, then 100% it would actually be pretty solid tank. Okay, Skyray is actually improved, in my opinion.
I kind of like the Skyray.
Yep, go ahead and tell us about it.
So the Skyray, movement 10, toughness 10, 3-up save, 14 wounds, lead for 7 OC3. You got the small guns that the Hammerhead has. We discussed those earlier. But you also get a Seeker Missile rack, which is 3 shots, ballistic skill 4, strength 14, AP3, D6 +1. Pretty solid anti-tank gun. If you make an attack against a unit that can fly, you can reroll the hit roll. And each time it's selected to shoot, you can reroll 1 hit roll and 1 wound roll. It means this thing has got good anti-tank, it's pretty reliable, decent damage, solid.
Yep. The Riptide doesn't say it comes with the War Gear because it's just on its data sheet. It just gets them, which is cool, as an ability. I like the Skyray.
Yeah, I like it too.
If it's relatively cheap, I honestly would just take a couple of these floating around the battlefield.
Agreed.
Then we got the Devilfish. Yep. So up to T9 and 13 wounds, 12-inch move. Its guns, entirely mediocre. Forget about that. What it is here for is units can disembark from the transport after it advanced. So it's able to go ahead, move, advance, and then disembark breachers onto objectives very cleanly. My one concern with it is that it is very bulky, and the fly keyword isn't quite as strong as it was in 9th edition. No. So getting it to move around terrain, even though it has this extra ability, is probably still going to be difficult. So it's going to be terrain dependent whether I really like the Devilfish and also how many breachers I want to run.
Yep.
All right. Razor Shark, you like the Razor Shark.
I do. So toughness 10, 3-up save, 12 wounds. Okay. if you shoot a unit that cannot fly, +1 to hit, so pretty much all the time, and it's got a lot of guns. So it's got the accelerated burst cannon, 4 shots, string 6, AP 0, damage 1. It's got a missile pod, string 7, AP 1, damage 2. And then it's got the quad ion turret, which if you overcharge it, which you probably do, strength 8, AP 2, damage 2, twin linked. And then it's got 2 seeker missiles. So it's got a whole lot of guns. You take it, you drop it down next to Shadowsun, you shoot everything out.
Yep.
It's a lot of guns. If it's pretty cheap, I don't hate it.
Exactly. But if flyers are expensive, no way.
This thing...
Bomber is dramatically nerfed.
Yeah, it's an objectively worse version of the flyer we just talked about. Reversal of last edition.
Yep, it's complete reversal. The Razor Shark is better than the Sun Shark. Important thing to note is neither of them have hover, right?
Yes. Neither of them have
so
hover.
they have to start in reserves, which means not alpha striking people.
Tidewall Shield Line.
Okay, so has firing deck, cool, gives you the normal fortification things, and then...
I think it's also a transport.
Yeah, it's a transport as well. It can hold a bunch of fire warriors inside. It doesn't let you put the Vespid and Kroot in there. Cool. It can hold 22 models.
Sure.
It moves 4 inches. It's T8, 10 wounds, 3 up save, 5 up invuln. Okay, whatever.
If you own one and you really want to run it, you should use it. Otherwise,
it's probably better than it was in the previous edition.
Probably.
Unless it's crazy expensive.
Yeah, unless it's like 300 points or whatever. The drone port,
whatever.
Cool.
I'm just going to skip past this stuff.
Nobody cares.
It hits on 5, so you'll get Blitzkill 4, and Shadowsun can reroll 1s to wound. Or hit.
It's a hammerhead that moves 4 inches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
It is twin linked though.
It is twin linked.
But you don't get a reroll to hit though.
That's sweet one. one attack. Yeah, cool.
Sure.
All right.
Storm Surge. It is towering.
It is towering. Towering is a very powerful keyword, so it's going to come down to how many different tournament formats are going to have holes in the window in the middle of the table, and how many are going to fully block those.
Yep.
If they don't fully block them, Storm Surge actually hits.
Yes.
And the cool thing is, a lot of his weapons, unlike most other units, are heavy, so he can sit there, get +1 to hit, and +1 ballistic skill from the for the greater good.
The hit modifiers.
And you ignore hit modifiers. So even if he's degraded, he's ignoring hit modifiers and can just hit on 2s.
Yep.
Which is quite cool. He's only T11, which is a little strange, but 2 up save, he's going to get cover, so he's just sitting on a 1 up once again, 4 up invuln, which is really nice, and 20 wounds, still a decent amount of wounds, and 8-inch movement is okay, 6 OC, but the cool thing here is you also can just ignore terrain that's 4 inches or less, which there's a decent amount of terrain that is that size, and on top of that, if you're shooting against Titanic or Towering, you just full rerolls to hit.
Yep. The Pulse Blast Cannon is a hilarious anti-vehicle gun.
Yep. So we were saying there aren't too many guns. Well, the Storm Surge is one of the things that actually has some anti-tank.
Really slaps vehicles clean off the table.
Yep. And so in 24 inches, it is 2 shots. Once again, you can just hit on 2s.
Rerolling?
Yep. 24, strength 24. So
AP6.
AP6.
Damage 12.
12 damage. Your opponent...
Get out of here.
Just killing armigers left and right if they fail the invul.
Yep.
Or you could be 6 shots at 48-inch range, strength 10, AP2, flat 4, which is still
also
not
solid.
Bad. You get the cluster rocket system for some anti-infantry, as well as some SMS and one other twin weapon. Or you could instead choose the Pulse Driver Cannon, which is blast, heavy, so 3 plus D6 shots against a 5-man. You're going to be 4 plus D6 shots. Strength 12, AP3, 3 damage with easy access to ignoring cover. It's just a very solid profile. So it kind of depends on what you're playing against. Tau probably need a little more help against vehicles, so I lean towards the Pulse.
I really don't hate this thing.
It's going to come down to points. It was relatively cheap when it was released in 9th, and people got upsetty spaghetti about it, and it got nerfed into oblivion.
Yep.
So we'll see.
Chat says it needs lone operative.
If it had 3 of those in my list, if it had lone operative
every time.
if it had lone operative, whatever has lone operative is just in my list. So that's just happening. But I actually think it's pretty solid.
Yeah.
And what's its combat? Combat weapon is strength 8, AP1, 2 damage, 3 attacks. Cool. All right, tactical drones.
I see that's garbage.
It's just the gun drones.
Yes.
They didn't let you take marker drones, because if you took marker drones, you could deep strike them into your opponent's backfield and then be like, cool, marker light's back there, and get them on air bursts and stuff. But they didn't let you do that.
Kroot Farstalkers.
Kroot Farstalkers, they have a whole bunch of rules. They're infiltrators and stealth again, but no scout move. And at the start of the battle, you select 1 unit from your opponent's army, and you get lethal hits and precision for this unit against them.
Cool.
And they can have an upgrade that ignores cover. So, they could do a little bit of sniping, but it's probably just going to be a much more expensive Kroot unit, and that is not what I want.
Nope.
They have grenades too.
Sure.
All right, and that's all the models in here. So overall, I know people are like down about Tau in general. There are some real stinkers in here, like the Hammerhead, just completely terrible.
Yeah.
It's not going to be seen. It's bad. It's going to die. However, a lot of the Battlesuits are 2-up save and just sit and cover. So they're sitting on a 1-up. They have 4-up invulns. That's very strong. On top of that, the Strike and Fade Coldstar Crisis combo
Is quite good.
is just going to be doing damage turn in, turn out. You put Exempt with a Callion, so turn 2 exploding onwards. That's a very strong combo. That's where I'm going to spend most of my CP. And then I'm going to have a ton of lone operatives that are just holding my half of the board. And then everything else is just Breachers, Devilfish, Vespid, whatever, just mission play.
Yep.
Flood the objectives of mission play, get into my opponent's backfield, and do what I can. It's all going to come down to points, how much we can fit in here. But you're going to have a non-interactive core of your army that just sits on your half of the board. You're going to contest your opponent's objectives every turn with Breachers and Devilfish. And then you're going to blow them up with long range, whether you take broadsides or sky rays or the storm surges. And that's what stands out for me.
Yeah, 100%.
So we'll end up seeing what the points are, but appreciate everybody hanging out with us. Hope you enjoyed it. Like I said, I think there's some really strong stuff here that's going to be very annoying for other armies to deal with, but we'll end up seeing how much they cost.
Yeah, I'm excited to see Tau on the table.
Yep. Thanks so much, everybody, for joining us. Like I said, my top 3 combos for Tau, where I go in depth on them, are in the War Room right now, which you can check out in the description below, thewarroom.vhx.tv. And if you like this type of content, please give us a like, subscribe to the channel, tell your friends about us, leave a comment letting us know which Tau units you're most excited about, what you think of some of the ideas I proposed, and just in general what you're excited about. So thanks so much, everybody, for joining us. Really appreciate your support. Coming up next is Necrons. That's going to be me and my friendly triarchical Mynir, Mr. Nick Nanavati. He's going to sit here and be a good boy as I talk all about the awesome rules that Necrons have. And then after that, we're going to have Drukari, which will be Quentin and Nick.
Yep.
And then finally, to round out the day, Quentin and I will be back together for
Leagues of
Votann,
Votann.
and I'm going to talk all about how Hearthguard are amazing.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks so much, everybody. We'll all see you next time. So long for now.